So diving right in and discussing how we as human beings on this planet treat our partner nature. Anything beyond human beings is our partner. We are living on Earth. Earth has provided a place for us to live in harmony amongst ourselves. At least that's our attempt. But sometimes, many a time, we forget to live in harmony with nature. With harmony in nature. When we, as corporate entities, go in and conduct mining operations or drilling operations or set up a processing plant, for instance, usually it is, dare I say, partnering with the earth, or is the relationship one way, where we just seem to have this overlordship of the earth, and if we own a piece of land or if we have rights to a piece of land, we can pillage it and till it to our needs, without any regard for the consequences. What are the consequences of mining or drilling on a piece of land? We use it for ourselves, and then when we're done, we're throwing waste back out into nature without returning, without any regards to the partnership that we have um, incumbent on us. So we have to rethink clearly this partnership. It's an implied partnership. It's a it's a partnership that we've continued to borrow against. And if we continue to do that, or as we have continued to do that, we will pay the consequences. And the consequences are these buzzwords that are flying around related to climate change and environmental disasters and so on and so forth. Um, if we are going to have to establish some sort of a framework um, amongst ourselves where we have a view, an outlook on particular entities or particular types of operations that we wish to endeavor upon. So if we're gonna go and mine or drill a well somewhere, we have to understand the consequences, the ramifications of what ecological systems that touches. For instance, if you're mining or if you're tilling a soil on 100 hectares of land or smaller, even down to an eighth of an acre, what is the ecological footprint of that eighth of an acre or larger, and who are the partnering communities? Which are the partnering communities that perhaps would rely, may not even come to it, but would rely on that patch of soil? The ramifications can be grave. Um, Speaking about an eighth of an acre doesn't have global impact necessarily, but if we start to reduce our thinking to first principles, we'll be able to then build upon those principles and develop a framework for how we go after larger and larger operations where we partner with nature in a more effective way, where we understand the implications of going into a particular patch of land, using its resources, borrowing its resources. Really, that's what we should be doing, is perhaps borrowing its resources. There's nothing wrong with that. Um, but having a view to, once we're done processing these resources, that we're returning more back to the earth than we've taken from. So what was the impact of that borrowing or borrowing, and um, can we you know, reduce that negative, reverse that impact with the output that we have created on the other side. So this particular thing this conversation needs to start, and this conversation needs to happen amongst all disciplines. So rudimentarily speaking, when we go to school, we learn about physics, chemistry, and biology, in isolated formats. So we learn biology by itself, and then we learn the subject of chemistry by itself, and then we learn the subject of whatever by itself, without, again, regards to the connectivity. Our human body is all three and more of those scientific systems that we learn in school. First there's physics that's involved when we eat food, for instance. Well, there's biology involved when we grow food. Theoretically, it's supposed to be biology. Largely speaking, we're now eating from largely a chemical basis. But let's just leave that for a second. There's biology involved in growing food, or supposed to be. When we eat the food, there's mechanics or physics involved. There is extraction or chemistry involved when the nutrients are extracted and sent through uh, every vein, the arterial superhighway of our bloodstream. And then there's quantum or energetic, even physics involved in absorption of those minerals into our cells to give us energy. So, and then there's beyond that. There's an emotional realm, and the knowledge is very sound, where when we enter into a sound meditative emotional realm, there is a better absorption of nutrients. There's a better uptake of physical nutrients into our body. But it's more than that. It's emotional. It's the stress is relieved, and that itself has ramifications. So it's everything is just connected. It's super connected, well beyond even just the mere connection of these subjects. It's governed by a set of laws that we have very little understanding of, and we've basically deconstructed them down to its bare minimum, and then reconstructed our own view of it. And we're not honoring these ecological systems uh, by trying to understand them. We're not taking the time to understand them, and there's a lot to learn. I think what they say is, at best, we know 10% of the knowledge of the soil. And what that means is, soil is not dirt. Soil actually are houses, just like a city. Soil houses um, microbial populations, fungi populations, insects, and on and on. There's at least 150,000 known species that exist in the soil alone, that all have jobs to do, and they're all shuttling, whether they're shuttling nutrients, they're acting predatorially, and there's a cycle that continues to exist in the soil, just like a cycle exists above the soil that we are able to observe with our own eyes. The same exists below the soil and in other areas, and the ramification of how we treat the soil goes far and wide. Um, there's a lot to talk about here, and if we're going to honor nature, and if we're going to partner with nature in the most effective way, we're going to have to do a much better job in learning about it. Now, there's a lot of knowledge out there, but we're doing a very poor job as a global population to pull that knowledge together. I think we're getting better, but there's still interests at heart that use a singular bottom line at the corporate entity, meaning a financial bottom line at the corporate entity, to drive forward our own corporate entities. We need to have a triple bottom line, or a quadruple bottom line, if not more. The first bottom line is always financial. We have to make a profit. But if we're not looking at people, the health of the people, the ramifications of how it affects people, the ramifications of how it affects the plant, then we're not taking into account the harmony of existing systems, existing natural systems, that we need to be better partners with. I'll leave it at that.